The whole foundation of animal agriculture is not just killing animals and imprisoning them, but the third aspect is you've got to breed them, right? You can't do anything if you don't breed them. So you sexually abuse them over and over again. Animal agriculture promotes materialism. You learn to see a being as a thing. We are right now, today, we are buying and selling every day millions of living beings by the pound, as if they're just rocks. Veganism isn't this new hippie thing from California. It's an ancient wisdom tradition that goes back many centuries, thousands of years. People have realized that if we're really serious about spiritual awakening, about creating a peaceful world, we need to stop imprisoning and abusing animals. It's not necessary.
Welcome to Real Men Eat Plants, the podcast that challenges the stereotype that a plant-based diet is only for Eve's offspring and green smoothie anarchists. We're here to show you that real men can thrive on a plant-based diet, and that it's not only good for your health, but also for the planet, animals, and most importantly, your libido. Okay, maybe your libido shouldn't be more important than the planet, but we're just being realistic here. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of plant-based living, sharing inspiring stories, exciting plant-based news, and highlighting the achievements of individuals who have embraced this empowering way of life. So grab that green smoothie and settle into your favorite spot, and let's embark on an exciting journey together. Real Men Eat Plants is your hub for inspiration, information, and connection within the vibrant world of plant-based living.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Men Eat Plants podcast. I'm so excited to be here. Hanging out with our guest today is Dr. Will Tuttle. He is a visionary educator, he's an inspirational speaker, and he's an author of the international best-selling book, The World Peace Diet. And he's here also today to talk about one of his newer books, The World Peace Way. He has a PhD from UC Berkeley and over 4 decades of teaching, writing, performing, and Dr. Tuttle is recognized worldwide as a leading voice in the plant-based movement. His work bridges health, spirituality, compassion, and inspiring countless people to rethink their relationship with food and with each other. We're honored to welcome Dr. Will Tuttle to the show. Thank you for being here. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you so much, Bryan. I'm delighted to be with you, and thanks everyone for joining us. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I just thought we'd do like a quick little personal check-in and sort of say, like, how has your week been going? What's been going on the past couple of days for you? Anything you want to share that would be helpful or impactful for our listeners? And just to say a quick hello.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I've been a vegan for 45 years now, since 1980, and I can just say it gets better every single day for sure. I'm married. We just had, I just had, okay, I just, 3 days ago, I had my 72nd birthday. And the day
Wow.
before that, I had my 32nd wedding anniversary with my wonderful spouse, Madeline. I met her in Switzerland. She's a Swiss visionary artist, and we've been married. I mean, I say that the most fantastic life I've had, and going vegan was the greatest thing. And marrying my wonderful wife, Madeline, was also two great things. And and the funny thing is, a few weeks ago before that, there's this online thing you can do to tell your biological age, because you can take a test, and it's 7 different things: balancing, reaction time, grip strength, continuous push-ups, flexibility, the ratio of your height to your weight in inches, these different tests, and
Yeah,
so I was delighted to see that my biological age is 22 years old,
that's awesome.
even though I'm
Yeah.
72. And that's one of the points I guess I'd like to make, really, is that floating around there, I see these ideas that, well, veganism, when you get old, if you do it, too long, you're going to start getting feeble. You're not getting enough nutrients. You're missing something. You're not eating the meat, the dairy, or whatever. Something's going to get you. And I'm telling you, I mean, it's not just me. There's millions of people who are thriving for decades on a totally plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to celebrate that because, like I say, it gets better and better. My wife is actually, several years older than me and a longtime vegan too, and doing even fantastic. I mean, so that's an important point, I think. And the thing is, though, it's not an accident I'll talk about that. I do
Hmm.
have this new book you mentioned, The World Peace Way, and I
Yeah.
go into a lot of the tips, like how it's possible to be radiantly healthy as decades go by. And it's not merely what we're eating. Food is important, but exercise and movement are important. The quality of the food we're eating, we're organic, whole plant-based foods. We've been doing that for 40 years. Organic, whole plant-based foods. We think that that's really the way to go. And now we actually lived in an RV for 17 years. So we had no house. We just traveled the country, giving
That's awesome.
events and giving lectures and concerts and workshops and putting on retreats and helping to spread the vegan message. Because that's really been our passion, is to veganize planet Earth if we can here. And
Please,
we did
more.
that for 17 years, but now we have a house. So the other thing I've been doing in the last few days is tending our garden. We have a veganic food forest, actually. It's organic and also vegan. So we don't use any bone meal or blood meal or manure, no animal inputs. And we've been
Yeah.
here now for, we're in our 12th year of gardening. And this gets better and better. We've planted 80 fruit and nut trees. So we have a huge amount of, like if I look over right across where I can see it, a whole table full of peaches and apricots and figs and apples. We have all of it over there. It's so much, so much. And plus my wife Madeline's bringing in lots of cucumbers and tomatoes and all
Hmm.
kinds of other stuff, greens. So growing your own food is fantastic. It's really a
It.
wonderful way. And we don't need a lot of land, just something. We only have half an acre and we only have about a quarter of an acre. It's really small, but you can get a
Hmm.
lot of food in a small space. And so I recommend connecting with nature. I think one of the most important keys to being healthy is connecting to nature and connecting to creativity and really working on relationships. Relationships, a lot of times people eat really healthy food, but then they're angry all the time or bugged or with their partner or whatever. So that can really take a toll on your health. So there's quite a bit that we can talk about here. But thanks for
Oh,
the
for
opener. That's
sure. I
interesting.
mean, gosh,
Yeah,
and it's interesting because like there's so many people that you and I get to speak with in the work that we do on that front. Obviously, you've been doing it a lot longer than me, but like it just I see so many parallelisms with everything that so many people do in our sort of style and way of life in a big way, right? Because I first off have to say my birthday's coming up towards the end of the month here in August, and then I just celebrated my 3-year type anniversary. So right there with you on a lot of those parallels. Obviously, I
uh-huh.
haven't been vegan as long as you have, so congrats on that front. I think the only other person I know that's close is Jeff Palmer, who does the vegan bodybuilding stuff. And I think he's on 40 years on that front. So well done. Congrats for starting this movement way back when for us on that front. And I also have my garden out front. I haven't gotten as adventurous as it sounds like you have. So I'm hoping maybe your next book is to teach all of us the right way to do some of these gardening things
Right.
on that front. But I just collected the tomatoes and cucumbers as well. So lots of amazing salads in both our futures later today for sure.
Right, right.
So, I guess I would love to just fill in a little bit. You touched on it briefly, but if you could just take us back and give us the quick synopsis on some of the key moments throughout your journey on these 45 years and
Sure.
what inspired you just to write the World Peace Diet and even your newest book
Yeah.
now, and give us your basic overview on philosophy and some of the challenges you've seen. I'd love to just give that background to our audience.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Okay. Briefly, I was raised in Concord, Massachusetts, back in the 1950s, and no vegan anything. We ate a lot of meat, dairy, and eggs growing up, a typical food. But it was a very interesting family. I was born and raised in. My father played the piano, so I'm actually sitting here.
I love
Play a
it.
bit later. I have lots of CDs out. I'm really into composing music, and I've been doing that for 50 years. So he was going to be a doctor. And so he was a medic in World War II in France. And he always advised us, he said, don't go to doctors. He said, I know what it's like. I was going to be a doctor. And he said, I need to give people a lot of vaccinations. And I think whatever I did, I don't think it helped them very much. So I pretty much stayed away from the medical establishment, actually. And he ended up going into newspapers, and he bought a newspaper, and he ended up having this whole chain of newspapers. And so from that, I learned don't trust the media, actually. So I've been not trusting the medical establishment or the media now for most of my life. I haven't had a television for 50 years. People say, how is it possible that you have never been to a doctor or been to a drugstore to get any pill or anything? in 45 years. And I
Hmm.
say, it's very easy. I haven't had a television in 45 years. So I really
That's true.
believe in being careful about the media and the medical establishment. If we want to be healthy, we need to take responsibility for the quality of our own health and the quality of our consciousness. So, but Concord, Massachusetts was interesting because that was not only the birthplace of the American Revolution. And so my father was actually a Minuteman. He would get dressed up in his Minuteman outfit, get the gun off the wall. We would every year we would reenact the battle and fight against the British and celebrate freedom and, all that kind of stuff. But again, I think there's a lot of good in that. The idea of freedom, that we have freedom of the press and freedom of speech and freedom to travel and move. All these things are critically important.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of raised with that, but we ate a lot of animal foods. And I remember when I was about 7, I asked my mother, so Mom, the kind of food we're eating, is this what everybody eats? And she said, yeah, pretty much. This is typical human food. And she left and came back and she said, that's not really true. I was thinking about your question. There are people who eat differently. And I said, okay, what do they eat? And she said, well, they're vegetarians. And I said, well, what's a vegetarian? I was kind of curious because it was a long word. I liked learning long words at that point.
Hmm.
And she said, well, a vegetarian, they eat, don't worry about it. You're never going to meet one. I don't know where they get their protein. So that was it. I never heard the word again. And I thought, these are really stupid people. They don't know how to get protein. I'm glad I'm not one of these vegetarians. And so that was my life. I grew up and I survived, did okay. And I had appendicitis, of course. My brother always had earaches. My sister had her problem. There's so many problems eating dairy, especially dairy products.
Hmm.
But I remember going away to a summer camp when I was 13, and that planted a seed because it was in Vermont and it was affiliated with this uh, little farm. And so I learned how to catch my own chicken, how to hold her down, how to cut her head
Mm.
off, do all
Boy.
that. Every year we would gather around one of the dairy cows. We'd put a gun to her head. We'd pull the trigger 5 times and poor cow would finally die and we'd cut her all
Hmm.
up. So I participated in killing animals, and I
Hmm.
thought it was great. I didn't like it. I have to say I did not like it, but
Hmm.
I knew because I'd gone through at that point 13 years of the most intense indoctrination a human being can ever go through. Like 3 times a day, I was eating not just the food, but I was eating the narrative that God gave us certain animals to eat. They don't have a soul. They taste good. If you don't eat them, you're going to die in 24 hours of a protein deficiency. So you just got to
Yeah.
do that. So I was 13. A man's got to do what a man's got to do. I can do it. I can kill an animal. And so I had that whole thing going. And I went away to college in Maine in 1971, and it was during the Vietnam War, and people were questioning all these things, and there was
Hmm.
protests and all of that. And I started questioning things, and I started going back to my roots and reading Thoreau and Emerson, and that led eventually to reading books from Eastern religion, actually, some Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Bhagavad Gita, Walt Whitman, the poet, all these ideas about higher level of consciousness and inner peace. And even vegetarianism kind of came up a little bit. Yeah, I started practicing yoga and meditation. And I
Yeah.
talked to my younger brother, Ed, and I said, Ed, it's possible. I can tell from these books, it's possible to attain cosmic consciousness. We can attain a higher level of consciousness. Otherwise, we're just stuck here with everybody just competing and trying to make money. And it's just a short life. And what's the purpose? And to
Hmm.
my delight, he said, yes, let's attain cosmic consciousness. So as soon as I graduated from Colby in 1975, we told our parents, we're going to attain cosmic consciousness. And they said, well, how are you going to do that? We said, there's only one way. That's you go to California. So we thought we would. We'd go to California, but we would walk across the entire country with no money and just do it as a pilgrimage, a spiritual pilgrimage, like
Mm.
sadhus in India. So I remember walking down the driveway of my mother's house when I was, just turned 22. And we had some fresh baked cookies from my mother, and we walked down the driveway and we headed west. And we managed to work our way slowly on these little back roads, eventually to Buffalo, New York. And in Buffalo, it was freezing. It was October. And then we decided to forget California. Let's just head south. So we walked over several months, about 15 or 20 miles a day. We would walk down through upstate New York, all the way across Pennsylvania, down into West Virginia, into Appalachia, into the Bible Belt, all the way through West Virginia. That took forever. And then into
Hmm.
Eastern Kentucky. And then it was really intense. But anyway, we kept going. We didn't have any money still. We just somehow survived. we walked through into Tennessee, and then south of Nashville, we heard about it, and we stopped at a community called The Farm. And The Farm in
Okay.
1975 was the largest hippie commune in the world, 900 people. They were pretty much all from California. And so we thought, well, that's great. We kind of met California here in Tennessee.
Slice of California in
Yeah.
Tennessee. Yeah.
And because they were all from San Francisco, they're all a bunch of hippies, and they were all meditating, and they were all vegetarians. They said, we're
Mm-hmm.
vegetarians. And we were not
Mm-hmm.
vegetarians because we were trying to survive. We would eat
Yeah.
whatever people gave us.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, and the thing is, they were vegans, but no one knew that word in
Yeah.
1975. So you couldn't use it. It was like an unknown word, but they
Mm-hmm.
ate no meat, no dairy, no eggs, not even honey. I mean, it was like really vegetarian.
Yeah.
They had 200 children, vegan from birth, all thriving. Everybody was thriving. They were doing great. I said, why are you doing this vegetarian thing exactly? And they said, well, there's two main reasons. One is most of the food we grow, instead of feeding it to people who are starving, we feed it to our animals.
Yeah.
And they just converted to toxic stuff, and people are starving. So we're eating lower on the food chain. So there's enough
Mm-hmm.
for everyone to eat. So we can have peace in the world, because we'll never have peace without justice.
That's
And
right.
the other reason is, do you know what the animals go through? And the fellow, I remember he explained to me some of the horrors of factory farming.
Mm-hmm.
That these poor animals are hyper confined and mutilated and killed, sexually abused over and over again. And it was like, oh my gosh, I could just see this nightmare of violence in the
Yeah.
background. And we pretend it's not there. But the
Right.
beautiful thing was, I just had this living place where every day we ate meals, and it was hippie food, right? It was lentils and rice and veggies. And we made the very first ever non-dairy ice cream. We called it ice bean. We made soy milk. We had a soy dairy, and we grew
I love
soybeans,
it.
and we would make the soy milk, and then we would thicken it, freeze it, sweeten it. And it was pretty terrible, but we thought, well, not too bad. Vegan ice cream.
Yeah.
Vegetarian ice cream. But anyway, so I was in from the very beginning of this whole thing. I'm so glad I got in early on. We eventually left there. We ended up at a Zen Buddhist center in Alabama, and then in Atlanta, and then I got out to San Francisco. I lived in a Tibetan Buddhist meditation center there for a few years, then Zen centers in San Francisco Bay Area, and then I shaved my head and became a Zen Buddhist monk and went over to South Korea, and I lived in a monastery in South Korea back in the early 1980s. And then for the second time in my life, I was in a vegan community. This was also
Mm-hmm.
vegan. No meat, no dairy, no eggs, but much deeper. No wool, no silk, no leather, no killing insects. It was
Oh,
really
wow.
vegan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And everything. And it was based on ahimsa, which is the old Sanskrit word that means non-violence,
Mm-hmm.
non-harmfulness. You just live your life. Because we were meditating. We would get up at 2:30 in the morning to start the day, and we would
Yeah.
meditate till 9 o'clock at night. So it was really intense.
Yeah.
And we would do that. I was in silence for like 90 days. And so a lot of going deep within, but I realized I was in a community that had been practicing vegan living for 750 years without stopping. And just,
Wow.
and so I realized veganism isn't this new hippie thing from California. It's an
Yeah.
ancient wisdom tradition that goes back many centuries, thousands of years. People have realized that if we're really serious about spiritual awakening, about creating a peaceful world, about any of these things, then we need to stop imprisoning and abusing animals. It's not necessary, right? There's no
Yeah.
nutrients in animal-based foods that didn't come from plants. You can get the plants and get everything you need. So why do
Yeah.
we imprison and kill animals to get, and then you get, not only do you get some protein and some fat, whatever, but you get all the misery and violence and all the pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide residues, all this toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. So, but the thing is, that really helped me to go much deeper with understanding what veganism is. It really laid the foundation, I think,
Yeah.
for writing the book. When I came back, I eventually decided to come back to our world, and I got my PhD at Berkeley, and I started teaching college in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then eventually I left that and decided to just travel and give workshops on developing spiritual intuition and give concerts, because I love playing the piano and composing music. So that went really well. I sold so many cassettes and then CDs, so I could live on my music. And
Yeah.
then I went over to Russia, Soviet Union. It was the Soviet Union back then, on citizen diplomacy, because they were the evil empire and we were going to blow each other up. So I was doing concerts over in the Soviet Union and Ukraine and in Armenia and all over the place. And then I met Madeline when I was over there in Switzerland. I traveled
Okay.
around and played the piano over there. And she came over a little bit later, and we got married. And so we decided to live in an RV. And so we traveled, and we just took the whole thing on the road. And during that time, I wrote the World Peace Diet, which is really, a lot of people call it the Bible of vegan living, because it goes into the history, the anthropology, the sociology, the social psychology, the spirituality,
Hmm.
the nutrition, the environmental impacts, the politics. I mean, everything you want to know is in that book. And that book just took off. That was really interesting. I didn't realize it, but it started getting translated by volunteers
That's
into
awesome.
Hebrew and Spanish and German and French and Italian and Norwegian and Indonesian, Chinese. Almost every language you can think of is translated in that book. So then we started getting invitations to come to Slovenia, because we have it in Slovenian, and come to
Hmm.
Norway, we have it in Norway, China, India, all over the world. We traveled. And so we've ended up now giving over 4,000 presentations in all 50 states, over 50 countries, more than any human who's ever lived. We've done lectures, right? Presentations
Yeah.
out here in the world. And that's my feeling, is that when we see there's something wrong in the world, instead of getting depressed, get active, right? Do something. Do something
Yeah.
to spread the positive message. Because the thing is, animal agriculture is destructive, right? It harms our health, it harms our environment. And we can get angry and we can get blame and shame and guilt trip people. But instead of that, if we say, gosh, I only got a few years on this earth, I might as
Hmm.
well do my best to spread a positive message of love and joy and freedom and
That's
kindness and
right.
compassion and health, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it just gets better all the time. I mean, I've been doing this for 45 years, and I have to say, it's a fantastic life to really devote ourselves to being a force for kindness and healing in our own unique way. Like you're doing, create a
Yeah.
podcast.
That's
We all
right.
have a niche we can connect with.
That's right.
And when we do that, it's just, it gives us every morning I get up and I think, I should get another day. What could be better than this? Another
That's
day on this
right.
beautiful planet. It's so beautiful.
It
And
really
so thank you
is.
for the work you're doing. That's basically the whole teaching, really, I think, in a sense, as I've gone
No,
through it.
I mean, it's such.
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I want tofu tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
Such an awesome thing that just reinforces for all the people that have read the book or the ones that are hearing about it for the very first time, about how your journey established your expertise to get you to that right moment where you're traveling around in the van, camper, whatever it is, and writing the first draft of that book. And I think I think I saw it was the 10th anniversary edition that came out or
Right.
something like that recently, right? Or a few years back,
Absolutely.
maybe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so congrats on getting it so many revisions and getting it translated. I mean, it's definitely been an extremely impactful thing, and it inspires me too, because I have a van parked in my driveway that I'm slowly building out to camp in. And so I hope to follow in your footsteps here soon enough, in some way, shape, or form, on that front. I'm curious though, like throughout all your journeys and going 90 days in silence and visiting these temples and living in some of these communities that you've mentioned so much, about the masculinity angle here. I mean, like this is the Real Men Eat Plants podcast with my desire and hope to bring more, in my opinion, probably stubborn American men towards a plant-based diet. I find that a lot of the women are open to exploring and figuring out different diets and ways of life and stuff. And like you said, the men are brought up and we have to hunt and we have to do all these things that men are just taught in American culture today, and they aren't open to change. And the masculinity itself is so tied into society that bacon is
Yeah.
masculine and things like that, that like I want, you already have been doing it for years, but I want to continue to try and speak a message of that. No, like I am a proud man. I'm masculine in my own way, and I don't eat bacon, and I don't have to associate
Right.
masculinity with hunting and death and killing of animals and all that stuff. So I don't know if you could tell us some of the stories or situations you've seen around masculinity, or how we can help find a better path for more men to be open to the change and coming towards the way of life that you and I both embrace?
Right. Yes. Really wonderful question. The basic thing, I go into this quite in depth in the World Peace Diet on the history, how 10,000 years ago, for the very first time on planet Earth, people started to own animals as property for food. We call it herding. It was in what is today Iraq, and it was wild sheep, and then wild goats, and about 2,000 years later, wild cows and other animals. And it led to a number of things. Number one, the arising of a wealthy elite class that owned a lot of livestock, and that was capital. The old Latin word means in head, is in head of sheep and goats. So these proto-capitalists who had a lot of wealth invented war. The oldest word for war is gavia. It means the desire for more cows. Invented slavery, because when you enslave
Who knew?
animals and then you win
Yeah.
a war, then because you're fighting for over livestock, over capital, and land and water for the livestock. It's always been war. I mean, livestock and war go together. And then whoever lost the war, they said, well, we own your livestock, now we own you too. So they started enslaving humans, started dominating women, because the whole foundation of animal agriculture is not just killing animals and imprisoning them, but the third aspect is you've got to breed them, right? You can't do anything if you don't breed them. So you sexually abuse them over and over again. So gradually, this is the worst part of animal agriculture, is the sexual abuse of females in a heartless way, and killing their babies and doing it again over and over again, and then killing them. I mean, that's really the darkest, that's where our forefathers really went off on the wrong tangent. But anyway, what that did was it created a patriarchal culture where women began to be seen merely as breeders, and then boys we have a natural tenderness and mercy and gentleness that's repressed, because you got to be tough and brand them and fight against the enemy and get their cattle and dominate the women. So it kind of created this false, hard, tough, disconnected male mentality to go when you have all these big animals, especially cattle. You have to be tough to control them. So these cultures spread. They basically dominated and destroyed the non-herding cultures, and kept spreading throughout the northern Mediterranean and Asia and Eastern Central Asia and Europe. It came over here and brought what the Indians called their slave animals, and they came over here. So we're raised in that, right, in a certain sense. But I think the key is there's not only the sacred feminine, which is this beautiful power within men and women to love and nurture and protect life. There's also the sacred masculine. And the sacred masculine is the power of creativity and of holding a space and protecting that space. And it's beautiful to honor that and to understand that. And it really requires us, I think, as men, to see our life as an adventure where we support and protect the feminine. And we can do that in a powerful way. And we can have children, and we can provide, and we can celebrate and be strong. Because I think right now men are having a heck of a time. There's this sort of the old macho thing, which is shallow kind of cardboard thing. And then there's this toxic masculinity. We don't like that. Get rid of that. And then men are like, oh, I'll just do whatever she says, whatever, I'm ashamed to be a man. It's really a bad thing. Men ruined everything. It's all men's fault. I mean, we got to get over that. We just got to get over that. It's not true. I mean, we're all born into a herding culture, right? We've all been wounded, men and women, whatever. But the thing that really grounds me, actually, which I don't know, well, I'll just say it, is that animal agriculture promotes materialism. That's the foundation of animal agriculture, is you learn to see a being as a thing. We are right now, today, we are buying and selling every day millions of living beings by the pound, as if they're just rocks. We're doing that. I mean, we're doing that. We go to the store and we buy and sell cows and pigs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, fish, sheep, all of them. We buy and sell them like cement. That's the grossest form of materialism you can imagine. So if we do that for 10,000 years, we start to see ourselves as just an object that was born and will die, this thing. And we start to treat each other like objects. How can I manipulate you to get and give me more money? How can I use you to fulfill my emotional needs? We start to use each other as instruments, because we use animals as instruments. So the whole thing is That's all materialism. So the opposite of materialism is spirituality. So
Hmm.
veganism at its core is a spiritual movement. It's awakening out of materialism and awakening out of the idea that I am merely this physical body. And
Yeah.
so when we see a cow and we look beyond the body, we see the being. We look into her eyes, we see, and we can no longer pay someone to do the terrible things they do to get milk, right? We're not going to do it because we see the being.
Hmm.
And we can do the same thing with other men and other women and with each other. And then we see the best in each other. We see the eternal, but we cannot do that unless we do it in ourselves. We have to actually take time. That's the key. And that's why I'm so grateful that when I was 22, I went into a meditation center and I just sat like 8 hours a day. I've done so much just sitting, just
Yeah.
being in silence, because silence is where there's real wisdom and freedom. It's not in talking and thinking and all this stuff. It's in silence. And in silence, we can discover that we're not this body. Whatever we think we're a male or female, it's just a vehicle. It's like a Buick or a Cadillac or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not what we are. What we are is the eternal spirit that was never born and will never die. We're functioning through a vehicle temporarily for a few decades. Don't get attached, right? We have to see that
That's right.
and understand that. It could be black or white or this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
We're a being. All beings are beings. Once we see that, we see, okay, so I have this, I have certain hormones, I have certain strength and so forth. It's a great adventure. Use it, right? And be
That's right.
creative and be strong and understand what it is to be not only a man, but a spiritual being. That's what we are. We all are. And that's the foundation. When we come from that foundation of spirituality, then everything takes care of itself. We're no
Yeah.
longer trying to put up a mask and pretend we're something. That's just nothing but misery. It's based
Yeah.
on a lie.
Well, I really appreciate you helping unpack that for us on that front. I mean, I do like I think one of the first points you made was really around the altruism that I think is just inherent in humans. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like we all have this altruistic quality about us, and then society shapes us one way or another. And I think at some point, I hope more people wake up to just getting back to that altruistic roots that is the essence of us, like you were just saying on that front. I'm curious though. I had a different segment here I was going to jump into, but like the theme and the backstory that you've laid out for us didn't touch on the music as much. So what got you into learning the piano? How long did it take you to kind of master it? And, like I think music and that side of our humanity is also being lost in today's information overload world that we're in, and mass TV and all that stuff. Like, I'd be curious if you tell us a little bit about your musical history and what got you into it, and the types of music that really resonate with you. And then maybe, if you don't mind, give us a little sample if you could.
Well, thank you. That's really wonderful because to me, music is liberation. Like in many ways, we're born into a prison. We're born into schools and medical and obligations. So much of it is really oppressive, actually. And so when I was a little kid, my father played the piano. He was actually pretty good. He had his own dance band at one point before he was married,
Okay.
and he would come home from work and he would sit at the piano and play. And I was the oldest child, and I want to play too. And he said the most important thing. He said, "You just got to practice."
Yeah.
And so I started taking lessons with him at a certain point, maybe when I was about 7 or 8. And he made me write down on a little chart on the kitchen paper, 45 minutes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I did my practice because he said, if you don't practice, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get better, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
that is the key to everything is practice. And so I started practicing and I got better. And then I started taking lessons from a more professional woman. And then I became a church organist in high school. And then I went away to college, and I didn't major in music because I was going to take over my father's newspaper business, but I did take quite a
Yeah.
few music courses, and I learned through those music courses about chords and harmony. And I really developed a great foundation, and I could play all, Beethoven and Chopin and all that stuff. But I learned about chords, and I started composing. I started meditating and just not thinking, and I just started like. So the thing is, when we get into a musical consciousness, it frees us in many ways from the prison of just our thinking. And that's what I discovered when I was only like 21, something like that, at college. I started playing. I started just opening up to the possibility of taking an adventure into the infinite through music. And the thing that happened was I started playing, and then later I would play and people would say, oh my gosh, do a concert. So I started doing concerts, and I started doing albums, and I started, Madeline came over because she loved my music. My wife, I got her, everything came from the music. But music, she's a wonderful artist, so we do individual, when we were on the road, one of the things we learned about was I could tune into a person and I knew their music. I knew their melody and their music, and I could intuitively feel into it. So we would take appointments, and I would tune into them and play a 30-minute piece of their music and give them a cassette, and then later give them a CD. And she would do a painting, and we did thousands of these. I mean, I did so many. I mean, this house here, basically that,
Yeah.
And so musical creativity is so important in my life. I think the reason I could write the World Peace Diet and these books, just to pull these ideas in, but it wasn't intellectual. It was intellectual on one level. You need that, but it was also the ability to see patterns, chord patterns and dynamics. Yeah, dynamics is everything. Like in music, the whole power of music is you have tension and resolution. It's like we need to. Our life that's what our life is. Our life is tension and resolution. We want to go to college, and then we have to go to all these classes, and then we graduate. Have a party, but then we got to get a job, then we got to get married, then we get pregnant, then we have a kid, and we have a job. So it's this continual tension and resolution. And when we see that, we can see the patterns in our society, the same thing. And these tensions build up. The election's coming. Who's going to win? Then there's, and it's always happening. That's nature. That's what we are. And so
I love it.
The beautiful thing is, like, when we understand consciousness, and we understand nature, and we understand the essential principles of music and relationships, like these relationships between the notes, and every note has a relationship to another note. Sometimes it's like, maybe I think it's not that harmonious, but in a larger context, that's true in communities. Like, people clash, but if you have a bigger community, the clashes become the spice that we said, it makes the whole thing better, right?
That's right.
There's so many wisdom teachings in music, and I just have to say, I can't put my finger on it, but I just feel that the underlying power of music and understanding rhythm and how things have a certain periodicity to them, and repeat again, and melody, which is the uniqueness. Each one of us is a unique melody, and cultures understood that. In some traditional societies, when a woman was getting ready to give birth, she would go off by herself and listen for a melody, and when she got the melody, she would teach it to everybody in the community, and when the baby was born, everyone would sing that melody to the little being. This is your melody.
Wow.
And they would sing that melody when the kid got married and when they died. The whole idea is that we all are a unique song. We have a unique song. And when we connect with that song and we live our song, our truth, then we're happy. And if we're not, we're going to get addicted to something because we're not happy. We're not fulfilling our purpose. We got to find our purpose, find our unique melody. That's the key.
I love it. Are you still doing concerts and touring anywhere at all? Or, good.
We have on our website, we have our tour schedule right now, like half the year. What we did, you should know this actually. We lived for 17 years in this fifth wheel trailer, like a big pickup truck fifth wheel trailer. And I learned a lot about solar power and plumbing and electric. So then we got a little van, because that was getting too big before COVID, and we converted it, and we live in that for 5 months of the year. A little micro van, put in a sink.
That's what I got. Yeah,
the whole thing.
I'm halfway done converting.
Great. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love it. We love living in
that's
our little
awesome.
van for 5 months of the year.
Well,
So yeah, so
I'm
we
sure
do
you
contrast.
have I'm sure you have like a list of the 30 other books that you want to write, but I would totally be loving your gardening book and your book on music instruction, and some of the
Mm.
stuff that you've mentioned here is just phenomenal. So thank you so much for sharing some of those pieces with us. The last section I just wanted us to touch on briefly is you do have your new book out, and it's full of a whole bunch of practical tips. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that
Okay.
book and maybe hit us with a couple of these more practical tips that everybody should be doing?
All right. I'll do that. And this is the book we just heard about, The World Peace Way. And the subtitle is Six Keys to Health and Harmony for All. And briefly, okay, the six keys are, the first one is diet. And diet is derived from the ancient Greek word dieta, which means way of life. So it's how do we live our life? So it has to do with our nutrition. So there's a whole section on nutrition, which of course is about what I already talked about. We've already talked about
Hmm.
plant-based, organic, whole foods. I have some more on that though. It's really helpful to be aware of the quality of our consciousness when we prepare the food and when we eat the food, for example, really with love and appreciation. That's very important. Also, the pans that we're using, I've noticed this. I've known people who had chronic disease because the pans very
Hmm.
often are not very good quality. We very often they're just cheap aluminum or even glass, iron, stainless steel even. So really try to get surgical steel, titanium. They're more expensive, but in the long run, if you're cooking food in it, it'll pull out of the metal
Yeah.
into the oils and into the water. And so really have good quality pans. Also, I think we do intermittent fasting, which I think is a good idea. So like the last meal we have is usually at 6:30, and then we don't really eat anything until like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. So we give up
Hmm.
plenty of time to have a fasting time. We sometimes we do fasts also. So
Yeah.
it's, how much we eat and all that. And then also water and air are really important. A lot of people don't realize that the water is polluted, the air is polluted. So we really recommend getting a good filters on the water. Also, we structure all of our water that comes onto the land. So you don't need to drink as much. Or when it goes through tubes, the molecules just get kind of reduced. So this opens them up like it's in a creek. And you don't need to drink so much. It's just more bioavailable. We don't have to use so much when we irrigate and water the plants. So these things are foundational. And also when we travel, we see that a lot of people who are vegans are putting all kinds of toxic things on their skin. I mean, and when you
Hmm.
put something on your skin, it's like eating it. So really
Hmm.
read, I really want to emphasize that we're not being protected. There are toxins, like over 90,000 different toxic chemicals have been invented by humans in
Hmm.
laboratories that were never here in nature. And they're in the
Yeah.
food, they're in the water, they're in the air, they're in the sunscreen and in the makeup and in the laundry detergent, all these things. So personal care and the cleaning products really have those clean. And then the final thing in diet is what we're taking in through media, right? There's junk
Hmm.
news, junk media, and like junk food. So really try to have high quality input. Make sure you just be aware of what you're consuming on every level. That's
Absolutely.
number one. Number two is meditation and spiritual practice. I see veganism as a practice. It's not an identity. It's a practice. We just try to do better every day. Veganism is kindness and compassion and love for others, right? For
Hmm.
ourselves and others. We
That's
can
right.
always get better at that, right? I can be really loving and kind to cows and pigs and chickens because, they're not insulting me on Facebook. But how do we treat the human animals in our world, right? So
Yeah.
really important, I think, to take time to practice meditation, to get a time of silence every day, to come back, to reset in a sense into silence. And then out of the silence, anything is possible. Like when there's silence, the music, anything can happen, anything, right? It really gives a freedom. If I'm going along and playing, I can't just suddenly change, but if I stop, I can start again. So silence is really important and regular practice. The third key is relationships. I've already touched on that, but really understand that everyone we ever see is wounded. We're all wounded,
Hmm.
and try to be loving. That's really the
That's
thing.
right.
I mean, the more we can actually just be loving with each other and understanding and not expect others to serve our needs and so forth, but to really be a giver in this lifetime, the more we'll be happy. Joy comes out of being loving. And our relationships really are founded on that. And so instead of taking offense, oh, he offended me, and that's being a victim. It's like, oh, you have to understand, what are we eating? If we're eating animal foods, we're eating victims, right? We're going to
That's
be
right.
really a victim ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're victimizing them, we'll be a victim. But even a lot of vegans still have this mentality of our society in there. So really just be proactive. That's the key word. It's proactive in our relationships, to be loving and kind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth one is movement and exercise. Very important. I've already this morning rode my bike down to the beach, took a swim, all these different things. Yoga, meditation, do that every day, and Qigong and Tai Chi. Yeah, exercise is really helpful.
Yeah.
It's a whole chapter on that, and movement, and the kind of furniture. We don't have furniture in our house. We have, because I lived in Zen monasteries, and so there's no couches. Everything's cushions on the floor. So, but that's good.
Yeah.
I'm sitting down and standing up all the time. So just think about furniture, think about clothes, think about the body, how it in many ways is it's nice to get closer to the earth, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final two are nature and creativity. So just basically connecting to nature. There's a word in Japanese called forest bathing, which is if you just go into a forest and don't do anything, just be there, your vital signs and everything else improves dramatically. It's really, nature is our greatest ally, and we're getting more and more separated from nature with our cell phones and all these things. So really to take time every day to connect with nature in a way that you feel is helpful. Take your shoes off, feel the earth, and then finally creativity. I've already been playing the piano, but anything that you feel is an outlet for creativity, writing, dancing, music, art, crafts, whatever. The more we can be creative, the more we are allowing the spirit, the divine spirit, to come through us in our life. And there's a certain fulfillment and joy in doing that. And if we don't do that, we're going to our cells are going to say, why are we here? What are we doing? This guy isn't doing it. He's just trying to make money to buy another useless thing.
More stuff.
We need to really have a purpose. You need to have a purpose that's creative. And then our cells, all our systems will be enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, that's that's one
there's
of the most amazing pieces.
There's a lot more here, but those are some of the main
but you really nailed it. I mean, I think a lot of people haven't figured out their purpose, and it just feeds into more materialism. So, okay, our last little segment here before I let you go and enjoy your day and get back to your routine is our little rapid fire segment. So the goal is I'm going to ask you 4 or 5 questions. I'm just looking for the quick 1 or 2 sentence answer on them so we can get through a bunch of curious things I'm interested in learning about you if we can. So your first one is, what is your favorite plant-based meal?
Whatever I'm eating at the time, quite honestly. I mean, I'm so blessed by my wonderful wife, Madeline. She makes, like last night we had polenta. We have a grinder. We don't buy flour. We grind everything by hand or with a little thing. So I love potatoes, sweet potatoes. I love green smoothies in the morning. It's amazingly delicious, everything.
What is the biggest myth about men and a plant-based diet?
I guess the biggest myth probably is that vegans would tend to be more effeminate, maybe something like that, which could be. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I sure am not, but I think, that's the biggest myth, I think.
Appreciate that. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
I love you. I really love that younger self. I mean, he was confused, but he just kept going.
Yeah.
He did a great job, really. I'm so happy.
What was it? It's one of my uncle and I love Tolkien, and not all who wander are lost. And you definitely have wandered a little bit,
a lot,
have found an excellent path for yourself. But what is one fun or unexpected fact about plant-based living that maybe people don't know?
It's just so clean. That's the thing. Like when we lived in an RV for 17 years, I mean, you see these people in a standard American diet, and they have to put these big gloves on and everything to drain the black water and the gray water, this toxic sewage and all that. And you eat organic whole foods, everything is just clean. I mean, you can garden, you can just put it in the garden, and it's good, healthy compost. And it's just such a clean way of living. It minimizes all the pollution, and there's 10,000 things to love about veganism. It never ends. I mean,
Yeah.
Just never ends.
I agree completely. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, but the time is just flying by here.
Yeah, yeah.
Dr. Tuttle, thank you so much
Okay.
for being here. I'm curious though, let everybody know, like, what is the best website to reach out and get in touch with you, and what is the best place to pick up all of your books or some of your CDs, or I'm sure you're online now in the music stores in certain places too. So
Yeah,
how do
that's
people get in
true.
touch?
So the direct link to connect with us, I think the easiest is just worldpeacediet.com, worldpeacediet.com. If you put that in, or just my name, willtuttle.com, that'll take you there too. Our books are there. Our schedule of upcoming events is there. My wife's wonderful cooking videos. She's got a whole channel on Madeline's Intuitive Kitchen. And teachings, I've got writings, videos, all that kind of stuff. We have a YouTube channel. All the music is available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play, and all of those things. If you're in those, just
Awesome.
put my name in. So yeah, we have a lot of people are always listening to the music and coming to our events and so forth. So we love to stay in touch with people. We also have a training, the World Peace Diet Facilitator Training, which is an online training, self-paced. And we have
Very cool.
2 monthly meetings that we do with that. So if you want to go deeper into veganism and spirituality and being an effective advocate and really thriving as a vegan in a not yet vegan world, we love to help people do that. So we're
I love
available.
it.
Like those are the main places. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has just been amazing. I've been smiling the whole episode. So thank you for popping in here, joining us today, sharing so much of the amazing wisdom and incredible insights that you have. To our
Thanks, Bryan.
listeners out there, please remember, embracing a plant-based lifestyle is more than just food. It's about strength, compassion, and making a positive impact in the world, as we've talked about so much today. Be sure to subscribe to the Real Men Eat Plants podcast. Please leave us a review. Share this episode with anybody that's ready to rethink health, masculinity, and the way that we eat. Again, please check out Dr. Tuttle's book, The World Peace Diet, and his new book, The World Peace Way. And for more information, check out his website, which was worldpeacediet.com. And as always, everybody, please out there, stay strong, stay compassionate, and keep making choices that align with the way you want to live. Thanks again, Dr. Tuttle. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Bryan. Thanks, everyone. Go forth and multiply the message. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, you've reached the end of another enlightening episode of Real Men Eat Plants. We've revved up the man machine and explored the thrilling world of veggies. Remember, guys, flexing your manhood isn't about the size of the steak on your plate, but the strength of sprouts in your salad bowl. For those eager to continue their journey towards plant-powered masculinity, buckle up and head over to our website at realmeneatplants.com. There, you'll unlock access to exclusive content, mouth-watering recipes, and advice from the plant-based powerhouses themselves. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on social media for your daily dose of inspiration and connect with a community of men just like you who have joined the Plant Parade. Remember, it's not just about becoming stronger, healthier, and more vibrant. You're also becoming an eco-warrior, playing a vital role in the wellness of our planet. We appreciate your support and can't wait to catch up with you in the next episode. Until then, keep fueling your manhood with Mother Nature's pantry. And remember, with a sprig of humor, Real Men Eat Plants will be rooting for you until we meet again.